Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, July 14th, 2025, and I want to ask you at the beginning of the session, as we always do, if there are any questions about anything that you've encountered or anything that, any questions that you may have in reference to what we've talked about in the past. All comments for that matter. No questions, no comments. Okay. Yesterday, we had a discussion about, or of course, we talked about several different things. Um, but one of the things that we talked about the most, I believe, was the whole idea of the Neanderthal, excuse me, in relationship to um, the European and the connections there. So, if there are not any questions there about that, rather, I want to see if there are any questions in regards to what we mentioned concerning the creation story when we were talking about the concept of Adam and Eve and the idea of the garden itself. We talked about the question was raised day before yesterday, I believe it was, about uh, the Adam and Eve story and the man being depicted as the first entity in the earth, while at the same time, we know that it was the woman or the femininity or the female who was the first in the earth. And that's where we get the term Mother Earth from. Not only because it produces everything, but it was labeled Mother Earth long before the invasion took place. And in talking about the things that we have discussed the last few days, I want to remind you that even though there are periods of times when we don't, quote unquote, take a text or speak directly from the scriptures, everything that we're talking about is spiritual, and we are talking from the scriptures. We are just not sticking to the script of the scriptures that were edited for the purposes of other people to convince everyone that they are superior. So, having said all of that, um, let me see if there are any questions about anything that has taken place this week that you are concerned about. Okay. Um, there is something that that struck me, and one of the things that struck me this week is the idea that out of all the things that has transpired, the ICE tracking down people or chasing people who are of Hispanic descent, even if they're Americans, they're still being arrested, and no one seems to say anything about it, especially those who are in the MAGA movement and the big beautiful bill that's going to hurt um, the MAGA folks more so than anybody else in the country. Nothing pretty much said about that. But all of a sudden, there is a huge discussion. And that huge discussion or anger comes as a result of the Justice Department saying that there was no client list for Epstein. So the thing that really got me about that is people are going to die because of the bill. People are going to starve because of the bill. Um, and people have been separated from their children in these ice raids, and being shipped to countries that country that's not their country of origin, without any regard to them not being able to speak the language or knowing the culture, most countries of which are not in a position to receive anyone because in some cases they are engaged in internal war. Yet, the only thing that catches their attention is there there is no client list of Epstein. To me, that is sick. And not only is it sick, it also tells me what the priorities are for Christians in this country. When I say Christians, I'm not talking about um, the Africans who have been forced to be Christians or manipulated to be Christians. I'm talking about the evangelicals. I'm talking about the Southern Baptists. I'm talking about um, the ones who supported Trump. Their their um, their concerns are geared toward the most decadent things that this country has ever been connected with, as opposed to being their concern being for the people who are going to lose their insurance, people who are going to lose their access to food, people who are going to lose their access to housing. Um, and I want to ask you guys, what do you think about that? What came across your mind when this came across uh, the news feeds? Don't everyone speak at the same time.
Hey,
Hey,
Pastor,
Vermel.
this is Charles.
Oh,
Go ahead,
go ahead,
Vermel. How
Charles.
are you?
No, go right ahead.
I'm seeing when they getting rid of the Mexican stuff, and not only the ones is American or Mexican America, whatever. I'm thinking they're testing the water for something else, and we can't see it, but I know they testing the water to see if they can get away with it. And now they're seeing they getting away with it. A lot of people talking about it, but the thing it is, ain't nothing been done about it. I'm thinking they testing the water. Once
And
this is done, it gonna come after us.
um,
Now that's how I see it.
okay, there you say testing the waters. There
Yes,
are, I do
sir.
believe that. However, my question was about their concern, their lack of concern for people who are hurting, but their greater concern about these the client list of Epstein. However, I will respond to your inquiry. They are testing the waters. They're trying to make it um, common or accepted to see men in masks snatching people off the streets because that is one of the steps that leads to authoritarian governments. If you look historically at what happened in Germany, um, what you will see is the what they call the left in this country. In Germany, it was the Socialist Party and the Communist Party, and they were lackluster in that they had seemingly no answers that was going to help the people, and the people became lackluster about their participation in government. And uh, business um, went after what we call the right. It was also the right in Germany. And the leader of that party was Hitler. And even though Hitler had been imprisoned for crimes that he committed, and even though Hitler uh, had the idea that um, there were people in Germany who should not be there, and it was not just Jews; it was Africans and Gypsies and other people of color who were there. So what happened is the businesses in Germany came together, as did the billionaires with Trump at his inauguration. And they put all of their eggs in the basket of Hitler, and they made sure that Hitler got elected. And what happened after he had gotten elected, he did not begin immediately. He got elected in 1932. He did not begin immediately uh, to um, to do things as being done here with the Hispanics in terms of deporting people. Prior to his going in prison, being imprisoned, he had already begun a political movement. And in beginning that political movement, he had already laid the foundation um, for the what we call the MAGA forces, but for his party, the Nazi Party. He had already laid the foundation for that, and in establishing his will in the country, what did he do? He had goons who went around the the what is it, venues where other politicians were uh, making speeches against what he was doing and had them beaten. And it became acceptable, and the people got quiet. They stopped talking about it, and the ones who were in the Communist and Socialist Party did not were not vocal about what was happening, and they did not give that much pushback. And before you knew it, people were accepting by virtue of their silence or by virtue of their embracing what Hitler was doing. And that is the same thing that happened in Hungary with what's that guy name? Anyway, he's a friend of Donald Trump's who's been to this country many times to visit him. Um, that's the same thing that happened in Hungary. That's the same thing that happened in Russia. So it's the same thing that happened in every authoritarian government. So once people are comfortable with what's happening with the Hispanics, then the next move is not so much us as a people as is going to be people who speak against what Trump is doing, who speak against him personally. Like, for example, Rosie O'Donnell spoke out about him, and he said, I'm going to consider taking her citizenship. Well, that was a twofold thing. The birthright issue was before the Supreme Court, and Rosie O'Donnell making that statement also was taking he intended for it to take the heat off of him about the Epstein issue. So when it comes to us in terms of deportation, uh, the method that he because he too well anyway he too intellectual deficient to even consider how to do anything except lie. Um, what the reason they want to get this birthright citizenship thing uh, um, overridden by the Supreme Court is because they want the power to end the birthrights of anyone in this country, especially those who were born to two parents who were immigrants. Not to mention the fact that he was born to immigrant parents and so was his wife. So the issue is, if they can do that, the next push is to end the citizenship, the 14th Amendment, which gave citizenship to Africans who were previously enslaved. Now, that would, if indeed that happens, which I doubt very seriously, well, I don't doubt it, is not going to happen. That means that they can come after us. Yeah, however, there is no place to deport us to. And because all of us were born here. So that would present a dilemma. The other part of that is no one is going to roll over and play dead with them making efforts to do that. One of the things I heard recently was their reluctance to go into the Haitian community to chase Haitians in the same way that they are doing Hispanics, is because the Haitians has vowed that it won't be easy for them as it is easy for them with the Hispanics. This is one other thing that is not being talked about. The 250 million people who has data, all their data in this computer bank, they are using the facial rec software to identify people. When you look at ICE and they have their phone pointed towards a person in the car or on the street who they are trying to apprehend, what they are actually doing is using social rec to pull up their files. And in those files is everything about those persons. Now, the problem with that is that software is not accurate at all with people who are not white. It is totally inaccurate with Africans. And the inaccuracies does not just stop with the Africans, it's also inaccurate with Hispanic people. The darker complexion you are, the more inaccurate it is. So they are pulling up people's information. And let's say, for example, they were pointed at me and the information on Sheldon pops up. So what they would do is arrest me based on Sheldon's information. That's what's happening also. So what we are already living in is a authoritarian state, even though we are still talking about constitutional values and constitutional rights. Those rights are being depleted as I speak. So, Charles, the bottom line is this: when you say coming after us, it would be more difficult to come after us than it has been with the Hispanics. And the reason that Frederick Douglass was removed from websites, governmental websites, and other Africans were removed from websites of the government, and African history was being removed from schools, and African contributions were being removed from the archives, or what desired to move from the archives. It's because they thought that we were going to protest, and the intent was to get us in the street, and getting us in the street results in martial law, and the result resulted in martial law getting us in the street would mean that there would be no elections because martial law had been declared. However, the ancestors saw better as to what was happening, and what they did in essence is told us to sit down, and that's where we are now. So I don't believe in any way whatsoever it's going to get to a place where it's going to become a threat to us. Does that make sense to you, Charles?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Questions or comments? Anyone else? Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anyone else?
This is Vermel.
Mm-hmm.
I originally understood
Say again?
the question you asked was about the news flash about there being no pictures with the Jeffrey
No client list.
client list. Yeah. My thought that hit me was now that they have, I think I believe it's tied in with the singer who just was in court, P. Diddy. I think all of that is convoluted together, chaos is all together. And I think that they're trying to clean up any loose public ties to continue hiding these sexual type events that are happening to males and that they're having. Let me just put it that way. That's what I believe.
I I think it's totally different than what's happening with P. Diddy. Let me tell you why. The reason I think it's totally different is because he has been publicly disgraced. There's no question about it. What he had been doing behind the scenes came to the light or was brought to the light. And whether Donald Trump pardons him or whether they put him on probation, whatever they do, it doesn't matter now. Everything, not everything, but the majority of what he did has been put in the public eye. And it's a matter of record because of the testimony that was given in public in an open court, as well as the videos that were used in open court. And in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for 20 years. Um, and it is said that she has a client list. And her appeal is now on its way to the Supreme Court. And their fear is that she may publish something. The other part of that is that the information that you have on P. Diddy is nowhere near the information that's being hidden about Jeffrey Epstein. Matter of fact, in an interview with Don Lemon, Jeffrey Epstein's brother said that um, his brother was arrested and was killed. He believed that his brother was murdered while he was in prison because he had information on not only Trump, but other people in power. And in particular, his brother said that Jeffrey Epstein told him that if I were to tell what I know, they would have to cancel the election. And after that, he was arrested. And shortly after being arrested, he was dead. And then there was a minute missing in the tape. And the guards were supposed to have been asleep during the time that he was supposedly unalived himself. But so I see that in a different light because of the protection there. Now, the other part of this thing with P. Diddy is that a lot of names did not come out. A lot of names were not brought forth. And the government who chose to prosecute him, or the Justice Department who chose to prosecute him, did not mention any of the names of prominent people who were engaged in some of those freakouts with P. Diddy and the rest of the people that he hung out with. So in some ways they are alike, but in the major way they aren't. Does that make sense, Ramel?
It does.
All
It
right,
does.
thank you. Anyone else? And we don't have to stay with this. If you have a question about anything, we could.
In listening to your question, one of the first things that crossed my mind was, uh, can this be related in an opposite way to what we studied in Isaiah 53? Uh, the key to that, all of that was said was, he says in the end, it would delight the Lord, but the but is if he becomes a guilt offering, if he becomes a guilt offering. And that kind of sums up the other 9 verses that came previous to that. Um, to say that there is no list, to me, speaks to European richness and masculinity. That's the only thing on a list that they would be afraid of, is making sure that there are no Europeans on it that would have any kind of power that would be damaged. And that includes any political people as well. So when you say that, that's what I saw. This is not so much concerning of a list, but making sure certain people are protected, that they may already know that may be guilty of something. So uh that's what I saw. And that's what uh why it became so important, I guess, as to some of the other things that you talk about, that you mentioned. And this stands to say opposed to that, but seem to be just as important as anything else. It is important to some people. And
Well, the
but
reason I brought it up, Ron, the reason
excuse
I
me.
brought it up
Uh-huh.
is because I wanted to show the moral values of the people involved,
Yeah.
the lack of moral values, I should say. There is no morality in starving people, taking food from children's mouth, and taking rent subsidies and putting people out on the street, and people dying because their health care is taken away. Yet you are all in an uproar about a list of names about people who molested children.
But see, what you're looking at though, uh, is something we've talked about before, that is very real. When you start talking about lower class and middle class, that's very real. And if you're not upper class, you're not as important. You're not as much of a human. You're not. You don't have as much to offer. So that's real. And you can't expect people to look at humanity as something precious and sacred, and if they don't understand themselves what humanity means or what it is. In other words, you if you're human, you understand, but if you're not, you see everybody all in through your own definition of how things should be. So I can't see them being hurt or being sensitive to anybody else's pain, because we're not on the same class as they are.
That's
And
not what I'm talking about. I'm
okay,
talking about the ones on the higher class. I'm talking about the poorest people in this country. I'm talking about the people in the poorest state, which is Louisiana, Mississippi second, Alabama third. I'm talking about those people who are poor, who rumbled about the bill that was passed, but are raising hell because they can't get that list from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what I'm talking about. The poor people, the Christian folk who go to church at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, back at 6 in the evening. That's what I'm talking about. Where the values that they profess to have is clearly seen through what they are concerned about. They are not even concerned about them losing their health care. They are more concerned about who's on that list. So you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And I do understand what you're saying about them not feeling anybody else's pain because they don't. And that's exactly the reason why the ancestors have allowed things to play out the way they are, because the people who are the poorest are people of European descent, and and they have to feel the pain before uh, any change begins to take place. And when the pain comes, what do people look for when they are hurting? People look for empathy when they're hurting, don't they? They look for relief when they're hurting. And and when you look at what is with inside that bill and see how people are going to be hurt and see the devastation of it all, they're going to be looking for relief. They're going to be looking for someone to have empathy towards them, but they're not going to find it in the people who passed that bill. Neither are they going to find it with a whole lot of Democrats. So that is what pushes this country to the place where it crumbles and causes a nation to be rebuilt, a nation to be built rather. And what I mean by that is this: when we see the push for universal health care, when we see the push to change the tax structure in this country, we are beginning to see a nation being reconstructed. Does that make sense?
yeah,
And that's the pain, and it takes the pain of the guardians of the system. They have to feel the pain of those who are the other before they could see the necessity for change. And if that's not scripturally based, what I'm talking about, then what is? So anyway, are there any other questions or comments about anything?
I have a question.
Yes.
You just said, they have to feel the pain and we're in the process of deconstructing this system we have now. So, Sage, if we're not to shape, how will the new system fall? Will that be a process we'll be watching too?
Um,
Or is that our responsibility ability to bring it into being?
our responsibility is to prepare humanity for the deconstruction and the rebuilding of a nation. We did not shape how the deconstruction will take place. We did not shape that. As a matter of fact, if you really look at what we did, we were trying to shape it, in that we were trying to make sure that Kamala Harris won instead of Donald Trump. But the ancestors, the creator, the universe saw differently that Donald Trump needed to be in office because that energy needed to be dealt with once and for all. And the deconstruction of the system is coming as a result of that. We didn't do that. Our desire is for balance, so we did not shape that. So when you look at what's taking place as a result of him being in office, now what we are saying is that we are preparing people for what is to come. Does that make sense to you?
That does. But my second part of that is, will we shape what will replace this old system?
No, we won't shape the way what it will look like,
Okay.
but we must recognize what needs to be changed. Just because we know that universal health care is necessary, just because we know
Okay.
that a livable wage is necessary, it doesn't mean that we know how to bring it into, to put it in place. But we do know
Okay.
it. That's what's needed in the coming. So what we are doing is putting these things in the macro, and when the nation is being reconstructed, the things that we put in the macro will become the dominant thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions about that? Comments? Anything? Um, I think is interesting to note that this is the first time that there has ever been a spiritual movement, a spiritual desire, a spiritual effort to repurpose the energy that has sought to destroy the world and everybody in it. This is the first time. Never has there been a push to spiritually dismantle the system that that is as destructive as this one is. The push has always been to change it through the government from the inside out. The push has always been to register as many people to vote as you possibly can and then get them out to vote. So the method of change or the method that we have been looking for uh, to bring about change has always been the vote. However, what we have been shown uh, through our spiritual eye is that the problem is the voting, in that the voting is easily manipulated and was manipulated when Trump won the election. So, all we are to do is our part, and our major part is exposing everything that can be exposed. Now, do we vote? Of course we do. Of course we do. So we vote, but then the outcome of that vote, the outcome of who wins, the outcome of what happens during the course of their terms in office is up to the ancestors. It's up to the universe. It's not for us to do. Why? Because right now we are so ingrained, have been so ingrained with the system until it's very difficult to think about any other system. And right now, even when we talk about the dismantling of this structure, people are afraid because I've had someone to ask. So once this is gone, then what you gonna put in its place? I'm not gonna put anything in its place. That's not for me to do. That's for the universe to do. And how it's going to happen, that's not for me to determine. That's for the universe to determine. Because if I knew how to get it done, we wouldn't be having these discussions. It would be already done. Make sense?
That makes very good sense.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? One of the verses in
Well, before you go into your verses, now, if Trump won't be able to run again next year and nothing can happen to keep him in office, the guy named J.D. Vance is vice president. You think he'd probably try to run for president instead of Trump?
First of all, I don't, if I'm looking at it politically, that is exactly what's going to happen if they're not successful in dismantling the Constitution. That's exactly what's going to happen. The major thrust from those who are the brains behind this operation is to groom J.D. Vance for Trump's position so he can slide into that office if Trump dies, or if he does not run again, or even if he does run. The structure is in place to make him president so they can continue the authoritarian system or the march towards that. So now, if I'm looking at it spiritually, I do not believe that the Creator is going to allow humanity to suffer as it has in the past at the hands of this energy of racism, this Neanderthal energy. I do not believe that the Creator is going to allow that to continue. I don't believe that. Why? If it was going to be a continued thing, then what are we doing? What is our purpose? Why would we be doing what we're doing if nothing is going to change? I believe with everything in me that we will see the change take place. Just like it appeared that there was absolutely nothing that could move MAGA or change MAGA. Look what happened. What happened? The Jeffrey Epstein thing comes up. So with Jeffrey Epstein thing coming up, then now they're upset about it. So that is, even though it is crazy, there is a movement now that is challenging Trump, that is challenging the system that he developed, that's challenging the Justice Department. So did we see that coming? No. But it is the infighting that's becoming more and more public. And that infighting has spilled out to the base support that he has. So I do believe that this administration, or whatever you want to call it, the tenements of what's the policies and executive orders, I do not believe that they're going to be long-lived, because I don't believe that the Creator will bring us to this place where we are open, where our eyes open and seeing what's happening, and then seeing the true meanings or the truth that's written in the scriptures that were always before us that we did not see, and seeing and understanding and putting things together like we did when we talked about Neanderthal and European, those kinds of things that are being brought to the forefront. I don't believe that we're going to have to continue down this road. I don't believe that this is going to go on for years. I don't believe that. Are there any questions about that? Charles, does that make sense? Or can you see
It make
that?
a whole lot of sense. It
Okay.
make a whole lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak to that? The we live based upon a reality that says trouble doesn't last always, and we live in a reality that says that the intent for humanity is for us to be balanced. We live in a reality that says that the mindset, the Babylonian mindset, is the mindset that the Creator intended to be the mindset for humanity. And the empathy, the care, the loving kindness for humanity is to be primary in the hearts and minds of those who have been charged with bringing balance to the earth, and that is what makes the dominant attitude, the dominant thought processes available to everyone. And when an example of what happens when those thoughts are available it can be found in the video that was played. I think it's the day before yesterday. Those kinds of things are a marker for me, anyway, of where we are in terms of the reality of people absorbing the thoughts or embracing the thoughts from the macro without even knowing what's going on. So the more we are balanced, the more we are willing to speak boldly to what needs to be spoken to. As long as we embrace the reality that we are Elohim, as long as we hold on to that, and if you ever waver with it, then ask yourself, is there anything too hard for God? And if you're God, why can't it change? We are a conduit through which light brings change to the earth. And again, I reiterate, there has never been a spiritual battle to bring change to the earth, as it's always been political. Questions, comments, statements? Do you agree with that?
It
I agree
resonates
with
for
that,
me.
Rita, because we didn't come this far to turn around.
No, not going to happen. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I guess to I let us remember who we are and keep that in mind and we've talked about this the last couple of days, I guess, struggling to see ourselves as being God or and that kind of takes the time away from it, meaning that I think we are operating in a place that is beyond time. And that is why we see some of the things we do. And like what's going on in Africa and the video that we see, it is to encourage us to not to remind us that you are on the right trail. And no matter what this takes or what matter doesn't matter what you see, uh, stay the course into what you're doing. So I agree with what you're saying. And I think we're on the right trail. And just a lot going on. And a lot of it uh can be a little make you a little anxious, I guess, as you see what's going on with other people. But I just disagree. Hold on to who you are. We haven't come this far and seen what we've seen and been able to uh walk in the direction that we're walking in, uh both, individually and collectively, if we weren't seeking truth. So uh I think all of this that we discuss is a sign or a message to us as well.
I agree, 100%. It is a message to us, and the message is constantly to us.
Yeah.
If it's not to us, it can't come from us. So I
Yeah.
I agree that it is more a spiritual fight now because look at all the things we've been able to discover or relearn in the scriptures. And all the things that are like in the macro, all the videos we've watched and all the things that have been said. It's got to be a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
For more than just us. But and for me personally, I feel that it is spiritual because in terms of politically, it's like we're going backwards, but I don't feel afraid of that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were just political for me, I mean, I would be very anxious because I wouldn't know what to do or how to do it, or, how do we organize, blah, blah, blah. But I don't feel any of that. I just feel like things are happening to change what needs to be changed. And of course, I need to stay the course in terms of knowing who I am. And as long as I do that, the universe and the ancestors will do the other work that's needed to be done to help make those changes. So yeah, I think it has to be spiritual.
Thank you. It
There's
does.
just there's just no other way for it to be in terms of what we can do about it. And look at all of us who collectively, without saying anything, we all decided we weren't going to protest. I
Right.
mean, that had to be spiritual. I mean, otherwise you would see people just in the streets,
Yes.
and organizing and all that. So there is a spiritual thing that's going on internally for everybody, or for the people who are willing to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Let's put it like that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, Audrey, I like to, piggyback off what you're saying. And I think that, again, for us to appreciate what a Kebelon signifies or what it means to us. I think that foundationally, we talked about origin of humanity, but the spirit and the essence of a Kebelon, I think is, not I think, I know is penetrating our spirits where we can appreciate the power of that energy. It talks about a Kebelon being the mother of mankind. And I think that there's power, in those words, but power in the spirit of a Kebelon. And I think, again, Pastor, you mentioned earlier in terms of, we talked about Africa being the mother earth, or I mean, the motherland.
Mhm.
And again, as we look at it spiritually, where it talks about a Kebelon being the Garden of Eden. So as we, hear the power of these words, when we think about the Garden of Eden, or when we think about, just the point of emphasis of a Kebelon, I think that there's something that we're still seeking. And I know that the spirit of a Kebelon is manifesting in our spirits in a way that we can grasp it even deeper. But as you said, Audrey, I believe that, Mother Earth, you know what I mean? The mother of mankind, the cosmic mother. I mean, these are powerful words, and I just meditate that not only we, appreciate the opportunity of us being able to hear it through the teachings that's again manifesting through our time together, but it really penetrating our spirit where our actions are one that we can walk in the spirit and the transformation of the Maya principles. And again, truth, we say truth, but we know that a Kebelon's truth or our truth in terms of their truth or the system's truth is totally different. What is real and what is unreal? But for the greater goodness of the universe, for the greater goodness of a Kebelon and the essence of what it gives us, that's what I'm excited about. And sometimes I just meditate to myself just to appreciate the gratitude of what we're discussing and what we're talking about, because it's not in that traditional sense of how we understand words and power to be. So, I appreciate, what you said, Audrey, and everyone who's spoken already, but I believe that a Kebelon, the spirit of a Kebelon is speaking to us, and I believe we're walking in that spirit. I'm done. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? The every discussion that we have, everything that we are shown, every scripture that we see, we begin that we understand the wisdom of, is for us first. Because if you don't believe it, if you don't embrace it, then how can you expect for someone else to do it? I was taught you never ask anyone to do anything that you are not willing to do. And you never ask anyone to believe in the thing that you don't believe. We have to embrace it. And the best way to know that we embrace it is to be honest with ourselves and to be willing to accept criticism, or willing to be accept correction, or willing to be questioned at any moment. When I make statements like, if we are using words that we understand are negative, or understand that are dehumanizing, that we be called on it by each other, so that we can keep this positive flow of energy for humanity. Excuse me. I want to ask, were you going to say something, Ron? Ask a question about.
I'm deciding whether I want to say something, but go ahead.
Okay, Audrey talked about she's not afraid, she's not uncomfortable with it. I want to ask if any of you, being honest with yourself, are any of you uneasy about what's happening, or about what you think may happen? Any of you? That's a yes or no.
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 I see other numbers on here. Other people. Are you
No.
on it?
No. No. No.
It appears then that no one is uneasy about what's happening or what may happen. Then that means that you have embraced not only who you are, but you have embraced um, the courage that it takes to come face to face with some of the things that are going to cross your pathway and make you uncomfortable in doing so. So I say that because the deeper we get into this uh, journey of understanding, um, the more things are going to cross our pathway that in the past would have made us uncomfortable, would have caused us to pause, if not to recoil. Because it's always the darkest before the dawn. And I do not believe that we have seen the worst yet. However, I do believe that the worst is right around the corner. And I do believe that we are going to begin to see the worst in September after Labor Day. And the reason I say that is because there is something in me that says after Labor Day becomes the beginning of the campaigning, serious campaigning for midterm. And during this course, I just feel very strongly that we are going to begin to see the worst of what is to come. And what we have currently seen and experienced is the tip of the iceberg in relationship to what is to come beginning in September. I do also believe that this month, next month, a month of foundation laying, meaning that we're going to be shown things that we will consciously be in awe of, but at the same time be expectant of. Meaning we're going to see things, we're going to make connections to things that we've never connected before. We are going to see scriptures that speak to us the way they have not spoken to humanity since they were written. We are going to be more able to decipher what the true message is as opposed to what the edited portions are. We are going to we're going to be open up to things that we would have ran from in an earlier time in our lives. And I believe that is in the process of happening right now, but it is going to intensify with every session that we have. And with it being more and more intense, we're going to have a clearer and clearer vision of what we are working with. Does that make sense, guys? This is where we are. the Creator, the ancestors, set us down not by the rivers to hang our heads, but set us down from the political battles that we have engaged in, set us down to rest. Set us down so we could see with a greater clarity without being clouded with what's happening now and what we would be engaged in if we were taking part in what the resistance is now. We are actually hammering weapons into plowshares, meaning that the political weapons that we've been fighting with now, they have become plowshares, meaning that they have become the tools that till the land, till the consciousness of humanity, so the seeds of righteousness can be sown or can be planted and yield a harvest beyond anything that we've imagined. And there will be those who will drop by the wayside because the energy of deliverance always separates the wheat from the tare, meaning that the nutrition of the words, the nutrition of the spiritual nature of what we are seeing, what we're saying, what we're experiencing will not be choked out by the naysaying of the tare, will not be choked out or will not be uprooted with the tare. The strength of the roots of the wheat, the strength of the roots of the truth shall endure all of the stresses that will be thrown our way. And when I say thrown our way, every time that there are stresses and pain and suffering thrown towards humanity, it comes our way. Because we are the vanguard, we are the shield. We are the shield, the vanguard for the entire world. We are the African, we are the only mindset of a Kabbalah that is able to stabilize the consciousness of this earth, that is able to provide a shelter for those who are seeking shelter because they don't understand why all of this is happening. We are everything that humanity desires for its stability. And you cannot make those provisions if you don't have the mindset of Kabbalah. If your mindset is not shaped by the principles of Ma'at, and you don't have to read them, you don't have to know them, just be righteous in your actions and your experiences. Because we are the shelter, the protection, the food for these people who are seeking shelter, who are seeking safety. I guess in a way, we are the refugee camp, but not the type of refugee camp that's been infiltrated, but a refugee camp that makes sure that the refugees who's in the camp are always protected, always fed, and always encouraged to be strong, even in their darkest times. That's who we are, and that we must maintain. Questions, comments?
Can I share something with you that I think is right on line with what we're talking about?
Sure.
Um, we look at chapter 53 Isaiah for just a moment, please? I promise you 5 minutes, I hope.
I'm glad you had hope.
I hope. I want to look at verse 10 because I think this ties into what you just said. It says, "But the Lord was pleased to crush him and put him to grief. If he would render himself as a guilt offering, he will see his offspring. He will prolong his days, and the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper in his hands." Uh, just for a minute, if your mind goes back to Jesus, we have thought that we understood this, and we looked at the beating that he took and the suffering and all the stuff physically that he did. Uh, and we know now that if there was no Jesus, then none of that happened. So then what is the crushing him? Uh, this doesn't mean what we thought it meant. Uh, this is in contrast to everything that comes from verse 1 through verse 9. It sets it up to tell you all the things that the African has been seen as that part of the puzzle that doesn't fit. He's been cast aside. He is the weeds that's been plucked away. That part that stops progress from happening the way men want it to happen as far as greed and selfishness. So what this is saying is uh he put him to grief. It pleases talk about being delighted. I am delighted that out of all the stuff that has happened here, uh, there is one that steps up to see truth. The delight means to shine on. So I shine on you, and the grief, what we have thought we've understood because we thought it was talking about him. Uh, the grief is partly uh, the way I see it in twofold. The grief is you will become more sensitive to what you see as you uncover truth. As you uncover more truth, you will see the suffering of other people, and it will affect you. You will see the selfishness. You will see the things that are happening in the earth, and all of this will affect you. You cannot sit still and not have this be a part of you. It also talks to the uncovering of truth in you. You have always had a mind to see God, and the God that you thought you saw, you understand now is not God. So it hurts you to all those things that you have given your all to, all those things that you have poured in and poured out of you in the name of God. It's all been false. But I'm going to use that same pain that you are feeling, and as you uncover truth, it will become enlightenment. So the enlightenment is in the light of all the stuff that you have been accused of. So the taking on the sins is not so much as we have seen Jesus taking on the sins of the world. All of this is heaped on him. The taking on the sin is you are uncovering truth. And as you uncover truth, you're shining a light on everything that is been offered to the world. The guilt offering is you are actually guiltless, and everything that has always looked right is being exposed now. So the exposure is you becoming the guilt offering. You are offering yourself. You're saying that no matter what this costs me, I give up all of me to see who I am, to see who mankind is. And that is me becoming a guilt offering. That I give up all of this stuff and the things that uh, have plagued us in the past, the things that we have seen no longer bothers you. So no matter how the African has been treated in the past, you're moving to a place where you understand now, and it doesn't matter from a personal perspective. What only matters is to be who you are called to be. It pleases you as Elohim, as God, to answer the call. It is not something that you haphazardly on this phone to do. It is something that you were born to do. None of us are just here just to be here. We're, whether you talk all the time on this phone or you dial in and remain absent, remain silent, your energy was meant to be here. And this was done from the very beginning. So all of that is part of that offering that you are. And that is the pleasure, the good pleasure that the Lord will see, because the prosperity that we have spoken of is being done now as we unveil who we are. The thing that I was hesitant about saying a few minutes ago, I woke up early this morning, probably at 3 something. And as we all have, you have this, you ever been overcome with gratitude, and you wanna praise God, you wanna move, you just feel so good. It just feel, and I felt that this morning, and something touched me, and it said, you know what? This feels a lot softer than it used to, because I've been here before. This feels a lot more intimate than I have felt before. And it dawned on me that what was being said to shown to me is I recognize now who I am, and I don't see God the way I used to. So the intimacy is recognizing who we are. And I remember thinking, I wish others could feel this, because this is not something that can be explained. So anyway, I think this verse kind of ties in to where we are and the recognition of who we are, what direction we're going in. And as we've talked about this, there is no anxiety to feel. There is nothing for us to do but to stay the course and rejoice into what we're doing and who we are. So this just kind of reminded me when I heard Pastor talking about this. Uh, it pleases the Lord to crush him. It pleases the Lord that he steps forward to be who he is, who he has been called to be. And I will shine a light on it. I will make sure that the universe sees him. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Makes sense to me. Yes.
Anyway, I just thought that kind of tied into what we were talking about.
And if I may, Ron, to everyone, if you choose to flee from here, where are you going? Where are you going? No one finds safety and comfort and flees it for discomfort and uncertainty. And that's what we've all sought to leave behind, to rid ourselves of discomfort and uncertainty. Certainty doesn't mean that you can paint me a picture or write me an essay about what's coming. Certainty means that you know who you are, whose you are, and who's guiding you. That's all the certainty that we need. Any questions or comments about that? Um, I want to ask you guys to do something. I was in a conversation with Kathy, and she mentioned something to me about Paul. And the main emphasis that she was speaking of was when he was asked, how long will you kick against the prick? And when she began talking about what she saw the prick to be, I got excited and I could not get it out of my mind and can't now. So I'm asking you guys if you would go to Acts and read that. Why? Because I think that it is more pertinent to where we are than we think it is. I think that the effort to elevate Paul failed miserably and is hidden in the words that were used to make an effort to elevate him. So I'm not asking us to do that right now, but I am asking us to look at that and maybe, and of course, we don't ever know where we're going until we get past questions. And maybe that will, can be or will be a discussion on Saturday. Would you do that? Trying to remember which chapter in Acts is in. Kathy, I think it's
It's Acts the ninth
ninth
chapter in the fifth verse, but the entire ninth chapter.
Okay, thank you. If you would do that, because I'm truly excited about what's in there. Okay. I never thought I'd be excited about anything that Paul wrote or that alluded to Paul and his writings. But as is with other stuff that we've seen, it doesn't mean what we thought it means. This is also the same thing. I want to get, I'm not saying that you finish with your questions or comments, but I want to get that in before, while it was on my mind, okay? Are there any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Ron?
Okay.
George, you had something?
I was getting ready to.
Oh, you get ready to say bye. We didn't say bye yet.
Oh no, I was in the ready.
No, I'm just messing with you. All right, okay, Ron.
Have a great week, y'all.
All
Thank
right,
you.
see ya.
All right, take
Thank
care,
you,
fam.
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye.